views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hola everyone, welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chari Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your hosty Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll speak to Dr. Marta Moreno Vega about the Creative Justice Initiative and the need to secure racial and cultural equity in the community. After that, we'll hear about the Bronx Documentary Center's 3rd Annual Latin Foto Festival, featuring works from award-winning photographers from the Caribbean and Latin America. Then we'll find out about the City Parks Foundation digital series, Summerstage Anywhere, that will showcase diverse performances throughout New York City and the world. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight features Latin Grammy award-winning percussionist, composer, and arranger Samuel Torres, who will close us out with the sounds of congas you don't want to miss. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way, because now we are officially open. Welcome back to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour. Always inviting you to get social with us online, especially during these social distancing times. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV, or like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, you can follow me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So our first guest is recognized globally for her contributions as a scholar, activist, educator, author, professor, and Yoruba priestess. Throughout her life, she has focused on expanding the knowledge of the African diaspora with the community. She created the well-known Caribbean Cultural Center, African Diaspora Institute, and now she's here to talk about the Creative Justice Initiative to help assure racial, social, and cultural equity within the community. Please welcome Dr. Marta Moreno Vega.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here with us. A la Puerto Rico, how is Puerto Rico treating you?
Well, I'm loving it. The humanity, the neighbors, the friends. It's like home. It is home. It is home. And right now, you probably will soon be hearing wind and rain because we're expecting a small storm, small hurricane. And so you'll get a flavor of what I'm going through.
Well, rather, that's what you're dealing with in this particular moment, but not on a regular basis. So you've chosen to relocate in Puerto Rico?
Yes, this is home base.
This is home base now?
Yes, it is.
And of course, you know, you can't help but recreate, right, in your new home base. Rather, you're recreating because the initiative that we're talking about has been in existence for quite some time. So let's talk a little bit about where the Creative Justice Initiative was years ago versus where it is now.
Well, where it was is a continuation of where it is now, right? The idea has always been that we get less resources within our communities to grow and address the issues that systemic racism, discrimination, and getting less than resources create, right? And they create continuous disparity. And even though we're working people, we contribute to the taxes of the nation, we contribute to the taxes of the city and state, we continue to get under-resourced in terms of all of the areas that we're in, be it education, be it health. And now what we're seeing is that this pandemic has opened up the level of disparity. right? We're
Right.
seeing the level of discrimination. We're seeing, because of the federal government not addressing our communities, the disparity, and that more Black and brown Latino people are dying
Right.
in this pandemic, right? And now, you know, there's discussion of even cutting back the kind of assistance that was being given, and people will be homeless. People who never imagined being homeless will be homeless. So this whole disparity is also in culture, in creativity, in people who need to have voice, right? We need programs like yours and major stations as well, right? Because our people need to hear what's happening and why it's happening.
So when we reference creative justice, right, are we just basically focusing on the funding that comes into institutions, or are we discussing the fact that our stories don't hold as much relevance to be funded? That's
the priority. That we are marginalized, our children are being miseducated. You can open any book and you will not find the history of Puerto Rico. And if you open a book, you won't find the history of African America, because it only starts generally with enslavement and placing us in a less than position. So that we need to have our stories told correctly. We need to get resources equitably from the funding and distribution sources. And they have to understand not only our importance and our legacy, but let's understand that we are, the demographics are indicating we're the majority population, right? So that we're no longer a minority in numbers. We never were in a minority. You know, my children, my students, I said, I'll fail you if you use the word minority to designate us, right? So now we're the numerical majority. And how is it then that we continue to get under-resourced? And our children are still, because of a government that is not functioning correctly, in cages on the borders. You know, so that we have to make these connections, and that's what creative justice is about.
Right, and so creative justice already has certain organizations attached to it, and or individuals who are artistic directors and or executive directors of some of the organizations, some in the Bronx, right? We got Rosario Bacolon, Charles Rice Gonzalez, Nader Martinez. And so the goal is to what? To enroll all types of organizations nationally?
Well, the role for the organization is to connect all workers who are looking at African descendant traditions and histories, and are working to document them, to present them to our public so that we understand, right, the history that has been denied us. But this special initiative is around really focusing on the disparity of economic resources coming into our communities. We have less institutions now, Rhina, than we had 20 years ago. We had organizations across the country that were servicing our young people, that were providing direct assistance to our communities, and they no longer exist. If you look at New York City, we've lost a majority of our organizations. That Rosalba, that Charles, that the Caribbean Cultural Center with Melody Capote, and other institutions have held on is barely, right? Because you have warrior people at the forefront. But we are missing the institutions that we need for our children and for our adults.
Right.
And if we do not fight for that, we lose community. And why do we lose community? Because people need a place to gather. And now with physical distancing, right, that is even more difficult. You know, children are not being children. They can't play with each other. You know, but when this is over, what will survive? Right? Because almost everybody has had to cut back on staff. They can't sustain staff or their physical space. So that when the world opens up again, what will we have left? So we have to deal with that now.
That's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's you know, obviously visionary thinking, which you are, and that I admire so much. And so where are you now though? So that people understand, right? Because I understand that there was a survey going around, and while you're saying this is a continuation, it seems like this is like a remobilization of this initiative. So Where are you and what are we looking to share with our viewers?
Well, what we have done is that we have talked to our institutions and said, where are you? And what we're finding is that on the day-to-day, people are trying to figure it out, right? As we're trying to figure out living online and Zooms and everything to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found is that the data that we need as to where our institutions are is not there. The newspapers and news covers large institutions, right? You hear the Whitney has let go so many people. The MoMA has let go so many people. Nobody's saying what is happening within our communities, within our institutions. How many people are losing employment? Will these institutions survive or close? So we've developed a survey together with a cadre of national people, not only local, but statewide, as well as national, to get a snapshot of what is happening within our communities. What are the needs and issues being addressed? And what are the services not being rendered to our communities at the front lines? And this survey will serve as a platform to address people who are distributing resources, funds, be it foundations, be it corporations, be it government, to say, this is what is happening within our communities. Your surveys have excluded us, right? Have excluded organizations that are small, that maybe function on $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year, or maybe $1 million or $2 million a year. But these are small institutions that do major jobs in our communities. Where is it that our people get assistance with food? Where is it that our people get assistance with clothes, assistance filling out forms for rent and so on? Are the small institutions that are within community. So we have to make sure that these institutions survive.
So where can people go to fill out the survey?
The survey is on creativejusticeinitiative.com and .org, and they can also go to my website, martamorenovega.org.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us here at La Puerto Rico, and stay blessed, healthy, and safe. I know you got a hurricane on its way over there, and we're rooting for you over there. Stay safe.
Thank you for being you. We love you.
We love you too. You guys, once again, for more on Dr. Moreno Vega and the Creative Justice Initiative, you can visit martamorenovega.org and or creativejusticeinitiative.com. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a photo festival highlighting Latin America. Don't go anywhere. The Bronx Documentary Center is holding its third annual Latin Foto Festival that features award-winning photographers from the Caribbean and Latin America. And of course, due to COVID-19, the festival has been held, guess what? It's been held outside. Yeah, for all to see. And it also includes workshops, tours, and panel discussions for the Bronx community. And joining us to share more, we welcome Bronx Documentary Center Director and co-creator of the Latin Foto Festival, Michael Campber. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it was refreshing for me to say, you know what? You can actually experience it physically, right? Because everything is just turned into this remote virtual experience that it's quite refreshing to know, while of course you're still being safe, that people can actually get up close and experience the images.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the Zoom stuff is a necessary thing that we have to do, but we've always done a good part of this show outdoors. And this year we just expanded it and made the entire thing outdoors. So all of the photos are up on these huge banners all over the neighborhood. And then at night we're doing projections here in our backyard. So, and on some of the buildings around us. So we've really expanded. We've also, this year we've moved up into NYCHA, into public housing, and we put some of the photos up in the playgrounds up there, which the families have really loved.
So let's talk about this mapping that you've done with the images and how you even chose these locations and what that looks like for somebody who's walking through the neighborhood, and give us streets as well.
Sure. Well, I think if you come off the subway at the hub at 149th and 3rd Avenue there, if you walk up Melrose, you'll see them. They're all along the fence next to Immaculate Conception Church. And there's a big project there from Colombia. Beautiful, beautiful black and white photos. Then as you turn the corner and come up 151st Street, there is a great project there from Argentina and another one from Mexico, Los Payasos. It's a beautiful, beautiful, really gorgeous large format portraits. They're huge. They're about 5 or 6 feet high. And then we've got a community garden across the street that has a wonderful project from Guerrero, from Mexico. And it's a long-term black and white project that's done in a farming community up in the mountains. Gorgeous, just incredible photos, very inspirational. And
I'm excited.
yeah, you've got to see it. It's really great. And the community garden is open all day, so people can come and sit in the garden and eat lunch, walk around, do whatever they want. It's wonderful.
So how many images altogether are out physically on display in these larger than life size?
We have 99 photographs out around the neighborhood. There's 99 photos.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's more than that on the projections at night, but we have 99 on display out there. And, you know, again, most of them are really, really enormous, so you can really see them. And it's 27 photographers from all over Latin America and the Caribbean.
Wow. And so the reason I'm saying I'm so excited is because I was excited just experiencing the photos digitally, right? And while, again, I opened up saying, you know, this is the day and age we're living in. It's refreshing to be able to go and experience something different outside, because, you know, our social gatherings are limited. However, what I do appreciate about your curation is the topics as well, right? But while we're discussing different locations such as Colombia, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Venezuela, Chile, and Argentina, they each captured different storylines, whereas the Mexico one that you mentioned was it's this very interesting group that they captured that is a clown style, kind of, sort of, not the regular styled clowns, right? And then I know in Chile is more political statement, and then there's the COVID Latam collective, which I found fascinating as well. And we also left out Cesar Rodriguez, who has the Spanish Harlem 1950 images,
beautiful, beautiful images, great images. A lot of the older people in our neighborhood grew up in Spanish Harlem, and they've been stopping every day to talk about and look at the images and say, oh, I know this block. I grew up here. I remember these people. So it started a lot of great conversations here in the community. And even in the housing projects in NYCHA, you know, when we're putting the photos up, so many people are stopping and saying, I'm going to get my kids. I'm going to bring my children back to see this. And that, you know, they're bringing their families to see it. And that's the great thing about public art and getting things outdoors. It's really magic.
So how many images are up in NYCHA over there?
In NYCHA, we have about, I think there's approximately 12 images. They run all the way down the playground. It's a pretty good, maybe 100 feet or more. So it's a really, really big display. And we've gotten a great reaction to that.
So, you know, it's really lovely because it's definitely a great escape. And to be in the urban environment, I can only imagine what it's going to look like. I definitely am going to make it my business to experience them physically, right? And they're going to be up for a while. Right? I believe you said you were extending it for another week?
We're extending the show. It'll be up until August 9th. We've had really such a great reception from the community, and people have said, you know, please don't take these down. Please leave them up, because it beautifies the community and it brings art into people's lives. So they've said, you know, please leave it up a little bit longer. So we're going to do that. So it'll be up until August 9th. And It'll go up on the internet. We'll have an internet show that will go up August 2nd. So people will be able to see it on the internet if they can't get out here. And everything is in English and Spanish. So all the texts and the captions are in English and Espanol también.
So, Mike, before we go, just share with everyone why you chose these specific locations to tell this story, and what was your objective in storytelling?
Well, I think, you know, we've been here, the Bronx Documentary Center has been here for 9 years. And right from the beginning, we tried to get things outside. You know, we want to break down the walls of the gallery and get things into the community. So we've always done that. I think that's the best thing you can do with art. I don't think it should be elite. I don't think it should be enclosed. We've always tried to push things out where people can see it. So we chose schools, we chose playgrounds, we chose churches, places where people go to congregate, that are centers of the community gardens. We've always done that. We're going to keep doing that. And then I think in terms of curation, we tried to look at something that was widely representative of what was happening. And every country is different, of course, and has a different, you know, history and political situation. But we felt it was important to show the protest photos from Chile this year because there was such a strong protest movement there. Extraordinary works. There's a great project from Puerto Rico looking at racial identity, which, you know, is related to the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on here. You know, a number of different projects from Mexico on you know, partly on poverty, but also on people pushing back and resistance and making lives better. So we tried to have a whole range of things that would represent some of what's happening today in Latin America.
Yeah, it's quite lovely, and right now we seem to the temperature, right, the climate in this particular time is basically forcing us all to have our voices heard, because right now the disparities are pretty much in our faces. It's apparent, and so it was very fascinating to experience what you've chosen to display in storytelling, because it was. I learned, even just reviewing some of these images, certain aspects of these locations that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know Brazil had cowgirls and that whole culture. I didn't.
Right. We also didn't want it to be a depressing show, you know, because, you know, people here, especially with COVID, are dealing with enough. So we need a show that brings hope to people and brings inspiration. And yeah, there's a huge movement of cowgirls in Brazil, and they're amazing, and they're stylish, and they're, you know, smart and passionate. It's wonderful. So we're trying to show the positive images.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for bringing hope to our communities and for being a scan for the Bronx, and continued blessings on the work that you're bringing, especially bringing it into NYCHA. NYCHA is one of my pet passion topics, because we're reimagining it. And so it was lovely that you also are bringing it into that space. Thank you.
We're committed to NYCHA as well. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, you guys, once again, the BDC Latin Foto Festival is on display outside until August 9th. However, it's online. Exhibition will be on for all to view at laffbdc.org. Okay, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll find out about a virtual musical event for you to enjoy this summer. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. So every summer, New Yorkers look forward to the City Parks Foundation annual Summerstage outdoor event. Well, this year, due to COVID-19, the City Parks Foundation launched its virtual digital series, Capital One City Parks Foundation Summerstage Anywhere. The virtual series highlights diverse performers and allows people from all over the world to tune in into the performance. And joining us to tell us more, we welcome City Parks Foundation Summerstage Anywhere Artistic Director, Erica Elliott. Hello, Erica.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here with us. I know this is quite the shift based on your usual annual commitments. So let's talk about how this all even came into play. I mean, normally all of us, including myself, would be out there in Central Park listening to this in live amid thousands of people. I can't imagine what kind of whirlwind you guys went through to convert this to a digitized festival.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone, ourselves as an organization and us as individuals, have had to do a lot of pivoting and reimagining. But, you know, I'm very, very proud. My team took a huge leap into the digital content creation space, and really with the intent to continue to provide what we do, which is joy and content and some levity and some context to the importance of arts and artists. By presenting it now in a digital space. So it's been really tough just, you know, learning how to do that. And it's a very different way of working than bringing concerts to life in real life. But it does give us the silver lining of being able to put it out to a larger world. And we've had viewers from around the world tune in. And also to really elevate and uplift and amplify the stories that are really true to who we are. And we're very about being about New York and all the different communities we serve. You know, the Bronx is where I live, so I'm always looking to amplify those stories. And particularly in this moment where things really need to be brought to light, it's given us a platform to really celebrate the important stories that aren't often told and giving them a voice.
Yeah, no, and what's good is that a lot of the content that's curated, depending on which summer stage you go to, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and how you converted that into in people being able to identify like what they're looking at, is that because New York is like the Mecca capital of mix of it's a mosaic
Right.
of all types of walks of life and culture and language and styles and folklore and all of that. And I can imagine the kind of response you've been receiving worldwide based on it being representational of New York, yet of subcultures.
Right. I mean, I think obviously within COVID and this moment of pandemic, there were a lot of eyes on New York to begin with, and a lot of really devastating and traumatic events on the health level, and then certainly on the social justice level that really were being amplified, with New York at the center of a lot of those conversations. So I think a light was on us already. But I will say, as a festival, what's important to us is and was in this moment to really convey the uniqueness of who we are in a cultural space, and we are rooted in New York. So we wanted whatever we put out there to really be representative of the communities that we serve, because our work is really rooted in community, and we are very specific about the neighborhoods that we present in, because we want to celebrate the stories of not just Manhattan, but all of the 5 boroughs.
Right.
And so, you know, I think that's been a really great thing to be able to do in this moment, to really show the unique cultural depth of New Yorkers and the variety of genres and styles, from dance to indie rock to hip hop, that are really uniquely New York, and that we felt like were a big part of our story and our base, and where we always draw from, and that we wanted to celebrate those stories.
Right. Let's not forget salsa too.
Well, of course. I mean, yes. And global and Latin and jazz. I mean, if you look at the choices we made, we leaned into the genres that really are core to who we are. And we identified those to be dance. We have a great dance curator who always is really thoughtful about what and whom she puts on the stage. We have a long and 30 plus year history of being a global presenter and bringing artists from around the world. And of course, we're a global city, so that speaks to all the various communities that are here. Latin music is New York music, and whether you're talking about salsa, or you're talking about bachata, or you're talking about indie rock in Espanol, like, this is a Latin city in many ways. Indie rock and jazz, and of course my favorite hip hop, you know, from the Bronx. So we tried to really be true to who we are, and what we are is a New York festival. So we had to highlight all of those genres that are really about New York.
All right, before we go, let's give the details. When did the festival kick off, right? Because normally we would be out there.
Right.
In the physical space, and so I want to know when it kicked off, when does it end, and what does it
Sure.
look like now being in a virtual space? Like, can people go, okay, this is the Bronx Summer Stage, this is the Manhattan Summer Stage, or is it just one Summer Stage anytime?
Well, it's all Summerstage anywhere. So, I mean, start there. And what I would say is, if you're not already following us on social, I mean, a lot of the promotion and sort of information about the series is there. So follow us on all our socials, you know, Instagram and Facebook in particular, but also tune in. So you can tune in real time and watch live in the moment broadcasts. And we haven't curated them to boroughs, but we've leaned in again to the genres and the sort of disciplines that really we see as core to our festival. But on any given night, you know, one night you're catching jazz, the next night it might be hip hop, the next night it might be dance. So you can tune in on our socials, but really for any of this, you can always just go to our YouTube channel. Everything is archived there. So if you missed something or you wanted to watch it again, because frankly, some of the conversations that we're having are really, really deep dive cultural talks. And so you're getting a perspective that you may never have of an artist. And those you might want to watch again or share with friends. So socials, check our website. And we started, to your question, we started in June. And we'll be doing things really through the fall and into the next year. So lots to already look at there, and certainly lots more to tune into, you know.
Yeah. And so before we go, really quickly, there's workshops being offered this time around as well.
Yeah, well, actually, we do workshops. In fact, we run a series that is arts intensive for young people that typically happens, you know, in summer camps. But of course, that's not happening. So we actually, I'd love to call out to that question. We've got our family day this weekend.
Nice.
So this Sunday is, you know, we typically have a big family day in Central Park, but of course we can't be in Central Park. So I'm thrilled. We've got Black Violin, who's an amazing classical duo who will be headlining. We have an Afrobeat dance workshop that's aimed for all ages, you know, kids to parents, and we'll be showcasing some excerpts from our marionette theater in Central Park. So if you know, love puppetry or you marionette theater, so every hour on Sunday, if you've got a family or you're just a kid at heart, you can tune in and see some great things, including, to your point, a workshop for African dance.
Nice. And so you said every hour, but what hour does it begin?
Starting, I think, as early as 10 a.m.
10
Yep.
a.m.
Yep,
And
every hour through
from
3.
there until
3
what?
o'clock. Yeah,
3
3 o'clock. You're going to see Black Violin debut on Summerstage anywhere. Again, we would have loved to have had them in the park, but we're thrilled. They're amazing. Everyone should want to see them. They're great.
Awesome. Thank you. And that's to be in the experience live, because they can always experience it afterwards, because
Yes.
that's the whole idea of it being Summer Stage anywhere, anytime too, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much.
Erica.
Yes,
All right.
tune in and see you soon and be well. Thanks so much.
You too. You too. All right. Once again, you guys, for the most up-to-date scheduling and lineup information for Capital One City Parks Foundation Summer Stage Anywhere, you can visit summerstageanywhere.org. All right. Don't go anywhere. Bobby C's weekly sports roundup is coming up next.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at bronxnet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Hard to believe, but the football season is right around the corner. Today we preview and break down the Jets' prospects for 2020, and we do so in a week when gangrene makes some splashy headlines. Former Jets safety Jamal Adams was loud and outspoken during his contract dispute with the team, but he didn't talk his way out of town, says the man who negotiated one of the biggest trades in franchise history.
As I've repeatedly said, my responsibility is to always take the call and assess its value to the Jets, and ultimately this was a deal that made sense for us to make. I think that that we have a lot of good players here, and I feel like we have a good returning core as well as some players we added throughout the offseason that we're all excited about. And I know this team is hungry, and I know this team is ready to carry the momentum from a 6-2 finish into 2020.
General Manager Joe Douglas says Adams' outspokenness had no impact on the decision to trade him to the Seattle Seahawks. While the trade likely weakens the club for this season, 2 first-round draft picks could set the Jets up lovely for the near future. We spoke with New York Post columnist Mark Cannizzaro to get his thoughts on the Jamal Adams blockbuster trade. Jet fans were probably shocked by the news that Adams is heading to Seattle. I wanted to get your initial perspective and thoughts on what you thought of the trade when it came down.
Well, I think the shock really was less that he was moved and more by what the Jets got for him, to be honest with you. And, I think we got to credit Joe Douglas, the Jets general manager. I don't think anybody thought he'd get 2 number 1 draft picks out of that deal. So I think that, to me, was the more surprising element. To me, it was no surprise whatsoever that the Jets moved Adams because of what had transpired, most particularly in the last several weeks, but really in the last few months. To be honest with you, I am not a proponent about the way that Jamal went about this and have been vocal about it in print in the New York Post and other venues like this. I just, I feel like he first came out and was chirping about his, wanting a contract extension and how much he deserved it and all that kind of stuff, which I get. But he started to do it right around the time the pandemic was starting to heat up and become really, a crisis for everybody. And people are out losing jobs. They're, some people losing their lives, and he's out there worrying about a contract extension. So I thought right off the bat this past spring, that was a bad tack. And then from there, it just got ugly and it got personal.
Our full interview with Mark airs this Monday on Open. As for the preview, we start with 2 men at the top that should determine the outcome for the present and perhaps very well the future. Will this finally be the year the Jets actually look like contenders? Head coach Adam Gase's job could depend on it. Third-year quarterback Sam Darnold could help make winning a reality. Gase was hired to mold Darnold. If the Jets, and especially Darnold, don't show progress in 2020, Gase could be a goner. We spoke with the Jets head coach heading into year 2 in New York.
It's a team game, we got a bunch of guys that are excited to get going, and those are the guys that I'm going to focus on. And I'm extremely fired up to get this roster that, Joe D and our personnel guys did a great job of assembling this offseason. And, from the conversations that I've had with a lot of guys, they're extremely excited to get this thing rolling. I'm excited to see what this offensive line can do. The better that we protect Sam and the better that our running game is with Lev and Frank, I'm really excited to see what we can put together as an offense.
Gase started 1-7 last season, but managed to finish 7-9. The Jets haven't reached the playoffs since 2010. They have 6 losing seasons since then, including each of the past 4 years. The Jets, for all of their failings, hadn't had 4 straight losing seasons since 1962 to 1965. The biggest question for this offense: does Darnold have enough protection and playmakers? After losing wide receiver Robbie Anderson in free agency to Carolina, the Jets need running back Le'Veon Bell to play, well, more like Bell of old. No more excuses about an awful offensive line. The team upgraded the interior of their line in free agency and took an offensive tackle in the first round of the NFL draft. Darnold doesn't have a perfect playmaker or line situation, so he also needs to do his part, The jury is still out on whether he's a legit franchise quarterback. Here's Sam on the outlook.
I'm not going to worry about things that I can't control. I think for me, I'm just going to worry about, having a good training camp and, making sure that I stay safe, making sure that I have negative tests going in and, just focusing on what I can control. And that's, having a great training camp and winning that week 1 game against Buffalo. Spending so much time with Coach Gase, especially before last year, just trying to learn this offense as fast as I could. It was definitely a process, and I spent hours and hours trying to learn it every single day. And I'm still doing that. I'm still learning the offense, but I'm definitely comfortable teaching some of the young guys and the guys who haven't been in the system before. And again, I'm just really excited to get that rolling.
Gase now has more to work with. That much is clear. He came to the Jets with a reputation for being an offensive guru, but that didn't exactly show up last season. Check the stats. Here's more with Sam.
Yeah, he's the right leader for this team for sure. I think for me personally, he's helped me grow a ton as a quarterback and learning this offense. I just think throughout the weeks, leading up to games, he does everything that he possibly can to put us in the best position to win on Sundays. And, that's from my experience with Coach Gase. And, I've had nothing but positive experiences with him so far.
Defensively, the Jets lose Adams, but they still have C.J. Mosley. If Mosley can stay healthy in 2020, he should be a huge difference maker for Greg Williams' group at middle linebacker. Mosley was limited to 2 games in 2019 by a groin injury. Mosley is going to have to be a hero for this front 7, a guy who can do a lot in coverage. Veteran safety Bradley Mcdougall comes over in the Adams trade and takes his place at strong safety.
We're excited. We're really excited to bring Bradley Mcdougall into the fold. He's a good football player. He's a guy that can help us. And we're also excited about the premium draft selections that we're going to be receiving over the next 2 years, along with the safety that's been a consistent performer. He started 75 games. He's had 10 career interceptions. So we're excited about the opportunity that this gives us.
Maybe the biggest question for the Jets this year could be free safety Marcus May. He's the most intriguing player on this defense as he enters a contract year. He was healthy and played a full season in 2019. If he repeats his production, he could be on his way to big money. May was overshadowed by Adams. He's still ranked among the best safeties in the league. The Jets will need May to be a linchpin of their pass defense. We hit the C-list for my final thoughts and a gangrene prediction. So much is still up in the air with the coronavirus pandemic. If we have an NFL season, the Jets should be better. With their tough schedule, will it translate to more wins? This feels like a 9-7 team at very best. The roster just isn't completely there yet, and the Adams trade was all about building for the future. A lot still depends on Darnold's health and progress. The Jets absolutely need both. The AFC East has opened up with Tom Brady's departure, but the Buffalo Bills are improving. And remember, the Jets have to play the San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, LA Rams, Indianapolis Colts, and the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, in 2020. They have the NFL's second toughest schedule. 9-7 might even be optimistic after voicing that schedule to you folks at home. However, the future is bright regardless of the outcome of the upcoming season. Share your thoughts with me on social media at The Voice, Bobby C. More open after this.
back. Our last guest is a Latin Grammy award-winning percussionist, composer, and arranger from Colombia, who's always been drawn to the rhythms of different musical styles throughout his career. He's had the opportunity to tour with Grammy Award winner Duro Sandoval and play with Poncho Sanchez and the late Tito Puente, amongst many others. And well, today he's joining us to share more, I guess, of his newfound studio at home. Please welcome Latin Grammy winner Samuel Torres. Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. And, you know, I make light of the situation because we're all living in these new arrangements of basically having to make do with our living environment. And based on the fact that you are a composer and arranger, I just wondered like what life looks like for you in your newfound studio.
Well, I spend a lot of time here in my studio writing the music, listening to music, but I've been very lucky. Unfortunately, there's been small places who are beginning to put music outside with everybody social distance and with masks. So we are beginning to play in some places outside the city. Around the
Yeah,
city.
I noticed that. You actually are doing like duets in Brooklyn somewhere, right?
Yeah, we were doing some duets in Williamsburg in a French restaurant. Keeping all our distance, social distance, but it's very important to bring music to the community. Music is very important for our souls, and live music is irreplaceable. So it's very important to do it.
I agree, and it's wonderful that you've finally been able to get out and play it, you know, for people, right? Because it's different. It's one thing to play it in studio, and it's another thing to have the response of an actual live being. And so I wanted to share with everyone how many instruments you play.
Wow, let's say I'm basically a hand percussionist, so my main instrument is the congas. The original name is the tumbadoras from Cuba. But I play different percussion instruments. I love to play the kalimba. That is a beautiful instrument from Africa.
Yes, let's talk about the kalimba because I believe we have some footage, and I found it to be a very fascinating instrument. I was like, oh, what is this? I've never seen it. So can you just share a little bit about that instrument and what drew you to decide to learn how to play it?
Well, I saw a great musician that I used to work with, Richard Bona, playing it, and I just fell in love with it. And then I had the opportunity to get one kalimba while I was on tour in Budapest, and it became my companionship. I was using to meditate, basically, while I was on tour. And then one musician saw me doing it and said, like, why don't you do this on the stage? And I began to play the kalimba. The kalimba comes from Africa, from the tradition of West Central Africa, and it became really famous worldwide, especially when it got performed by Earth, Wind and Fire in one of their hits in the 70s.
And I remember you mentioning something about you using it for meditation. You also shared that there's a community that uses that instrument more frequently. I've never seen it, but the sounds are so soothing.
Yeah, a lot of people use it for meditation. There's a great playlist of kalimba music on YouTube, and you can search for meditation music. It's a beautiful instrument, and it's like one of these new instruments developed in the 20th century.
And your I guess your skill set comes from being able to play the piano.
Yeah, I think piano. It's like very important for any musicians because in the piano, first you have 10 instruments at the same time, so you can play 10 notes at the same time, and you have the whole range from the higher notes to the lower notes. So basically, like you have the whole orchestra in your fingers. So I'm not a piano player, but as a composer, it's very important to play the piano and understand the language.
And so before we go, because I know you're gonna perform a beautiful percussion solo for us, let's just share with everyone where they can go see you playing live in Williamsburg.
Well, in Williamsburg, we were doing it in a restaurant called Pates and Traditions. We're doing a series of music also in Tribeca in a restaurant called 1803. We are there in August. We're going to be 2 days. Also, you can see us playing live in Terraza 7 in Queens. So they're beginning to program live music and live jazz in the street.
All right, so you're getting out there and enjoying the sun while, of course, enjoying the live sounds of your instruments and being around people. Awesome.
Thank you, thank you. That's the idea. The idea, like you said before, we can play by ourselves, but the most important is to share it with the community.
All right, so last thing, I know that you produce some music, Alegría. Where can people find your music if they can't find you in person?
Well, they can search all my music on the social media and the streaming services in Spotify, Apple Music. They can search for Samuel Torres. They will find there my 5 recordings, and especially the most recent one, Alegría.
Beautiful, bueno. Gracias, maestro.
Gracias a ustedes, and thanks for the invitation, and hope to see everyone soon.
Awesome. All right, you guys, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, Samuel Torres is going to perform for us. Don't go anywhere. It's now time for this week's Open Artist Spotlight. Here now to perform a special percussion piece, please welcome Latin Grammy Award winner, Samuel Torres. a good close when we're listening to the sounds of congas. All right, you guys, once again, for more on Samuel Torres and his music, be sure to follow him on Instagram at Blue Conga Music. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the Recablecast tonight, 24 hours a day, at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. Adios.